So I want to kind of just get into it, get into the pain and the discomfort of illness, if you want to call it that, or disease, or disability, or unhealthiness. How to be with illness, how to be with disease. And without making it into a problem to fix or a practice to practice, practicing a sickness from a witnessing distance, or guiding someone into a practice from a state of health and comfort. I really just want to get into it, and it's not an answer to the question of how to be with disease or how to be with illness in the right way. But more, what feels authentic is the inquiry of how is it when we are actually with the wisdom of pain and discomfort, not needing some end point for it to be gone or free. And so how do we do it? How is it right now if it's doing itself and there's nobody at the center of the illness? There's just the experience of illness. How is it right now? And I'll preface this by saying there are so many layers to the ways in which we can have discomfort. The body, the mind, the nervous system can meet its limitations or can misfire in certain ways that hurt. And I'll certainly not touch on them all. And there's a distinction between how to be with illness that arises in another person's body, which maybe I'll touch on. But what feels primary is how to be with illness as it's arising in me. Again, the emphasis is on the question, not on some answer. And so here it is here for me, the speaker and the pressure behind the nose, tenderness of the face. Perceptual changes in balance. Perceptual changes in vision. A sense of the muscles of the body not quite holding, not quite accessing strength in the ways that they're used to. And for you, it might be something more sharp in a tendon, or the digestive system, or the lungs. The head might be throbbing in a certain way. The back or the neck might be aching. The mental layers that are normally sharp and predictable might be slower, might feel more distant. There might be a rhythmic process erupting in the body of coughing or shaking or sweating or swallowing, or the speech bumping as it tries to come out, or the eyes twitching. So many potential rhythms within us, even noticing on the mental level. Cycling patterns of dense, tense mental content, or panicked, frenzied, flurried. It's impossible to say what begins and what's added on in some cases, but in some cases it might be very obvious that some throat tenderness or soreness or indigestion or some just natural process of the body is being responded to, is the threat in and of itself that's creating another layer of tension in the body, of shame, withdrawal, loneliness, of needing to remove oneself, or actual rejection that's perceived as, oh, I'm the worthless one now. Fear. What if I'm broken? What if I'm not okay? What if this never stops? What if I can't do what needs to be done for myself or for someone else? Self-loathing, rage that might be repressed, it might not be felt, but there might be some layer of just most volcanic blame. I'm broken, it's me. I'm not okay. how to be with it, how to be with all of it. What if it already is? And if you can let go of the asking of how do I do this right or how do I fix this, the process will just arise. Life will just meet you. Remember, this is not in anyone's control. No one would choose sickness. And so it was a perfect opportunity to dive into the out of controlness of everything, because even if we were to choose ease and comfort, that's not up to us either. Even though we tell ourselves that we're in control of that and we can attain it, the illness is the teacher in a certain way of, oh, here it is, and noticing how it arises. Pressure behind the nose has shifted already. Into the temples. And the ability for contact of the body with itself, for hand on body soothing and presence. I'm here. There's no such thing as aloneness, really. Although it's painful to feel rejection and alienation, and to know that no one could possibly be with this pain and discomfort outside of the universe that it is arising in, which is this personal body. That can be experienced as a privilege, not a burden. A privilege of being me. Love of self with all of the layers of self-loathing that might be there, shame or doubt. Because if we're really with the illness, the present moment experience of pain and discomfort in the body, and the next layer of it, and the next layer of it, maybe the emotion, maybe the fleeting thought, maybe the identity structure. Oh shit, this is the me that used to be able to run a marathon or teach a yoga class or repress so hard that none of this was showing, and maintain friendships all around that repression, and feel comfortable in that act on some level, being with that layer. Oh, that layer is gone. And now what? And now there's this kind of hollowness, aching, seemingly centered in the face, but when that ability, or not even ability, but just isness of being that unhooks from any center is allowed to unhook deeper, then there's just this body experiencing deeper and deeper, such that all of these layers dance in the light of that which is foundational. that which doesn't shift, that which is not a symptom, that which is unspeakable. That which is just beyond illness, particularly the most intense forms of illness where we really encounter maybe the coldness of the body or the struggling to breathe or the shutting down of organs that had been functioning for some of us. That's what the mind is creating out of fear, but of others of us, that is the process of what might be happening, might be these disabling phases of life, might be nearing the end of life. For all of us to know that at some point the coldness of the body shutting down is this natural invitation. That we can fool ourselves into thinking we can deny that invitation, but it's not even a request, it's the next shift. And even that next shift, there's the deepening, the mystery of the body coming to a close. That all of this can't be narrated from outside someone else's body, much less can it be narrated from my own body, but I can touch and be and feel. Not in a hypervigilant way, not in an effortful way, not in a let me stop my life to practice sickness kind of a way, but something much more natural. When we let life just meet us however it is, not however we prefer, but however it is. And how to be with illness in another. Whether or not I am in ease can be even harder. As a mother, as a partner, or a friend. To honor that I can't know that disease. I don't know what that is. If it's not within me. And so whatever's being stirred up within me is the discomfort that's being asked. Discomfort of being out of control. I can't help. Or I don't prefer this. I don't want to give up my freedom to deal with this. Or I don't want to be a bad mom who lets their kid get sick. Or I don't want to lose you and be alone. Or I don't want to feel the coldness of your body because my body can't handle the potential for its own coldness. And how is that arising? Here for you, deeply, not in a separate kind of a way, but in the deep presence that alongside someone who's struggling in their own right, physically in the mind body, if I'm really at home, that's the greatest gift I can give. And we can be in this mystery together, honoring that if I try to take someone else's power away by fixing them, I'm stealing. In a certain sense, I'm stealing their power. And I'm also stealing or repressing my own power to be with my own fear, my own quaking, or my own mortality, that I could possibly be at peace with that. I could possibly be connected with the divine in that process and not pretend or try to separate out from it. This is not a formula how to be with illness for me or for you. It feels like one of the greatest invitations and one of the most advanced invitations into inquiry, because it takes us right to the scariest place. Although most of us are not dying, anything that threatens the body's functioning on some level is in a battle for survival. And who is it protecting against? Well, death, an end, a survival threat. And that's not a problem. It's not a problem that we're going to die, but it's also okay for the body to not be okay with it. Because its job is to live. Its job is to fight, to stay alive, and it does an amazing job. And there are so many ways to live deeply and fully with pain and discomfort that don't create mental suffering or interpretation that this is an ending. If we're allowed to be. There's this inquiry, if I can remember it right now. Let's see. You know, we get so tangled up in the fixing of our lives. The avoiding of failings or deaths, but how do we really live? So the inquiry that I'll leave this on is a pattern that arises in many spiritual circles that I've overlapped with, where I feel that actual illness and disease, the gifts of it, are bypassed by this process of trying to liberate and free oneself from suffering and awaken to that which is deathless and beyond form, while at the same time being afraid of really living. And so how to be with illness? Well, there's permission to be alive. in all of it, to still be alive, to not be holding one's breath for healing or a certain kind of freedom from suffering or form, but to embrace this imperfect, limited form with gentleness and compassion and curiosity, but also with an openness to it exactly as it is. To the nervous system's entanglement. And with this kind of okayness with not being okay at times that arises. So humanly, so natural. And here we are. And here it is, teaching. Helping us live more sincerely with what we have right here, right now. Powerful and weak at the same time. And always changing.